February 2020, Melly was involved in a multi-inmate fight inside the day room of his area unit and was given a DR for his role in the fight. October 2020, placed on a room restriction for refusing to go back to his cell as he was trying to hide while on the phone.
And developing now, there's a new push to get rapper YNW Melly out of jail. He's currently awaiting retrial for 2 childhood friends, but a new lawsuit alleges he's being held in inhumane conditions.
You ever watch a courtroom collapse in real time? Because what just happened to YNW Melly isn't a plot twist. It's a full-blown cinematic disaster. I'm talking popcorn flying, judge dropping. There's no way this is real-life levels of chaos. Melly's last legal lifeline. The one thing his entire fanbase prayed for, manifested for, and tweeted into the universe just evaporated like it never existed. Poof. Gone. Deleted from the timeline like a scandalous tweet at 3 a.m. And when I tell you the courtroom's energy shifted. This made the Kardashians look like amateur drama students. This made Zeus Network look wholesome. This made Love and Hip Hop seem like a church picnic. The way that judge moved, the way the prosecution smirked, the way the entire internet collectively screamed, you'd swear someone unplugged Melly's fate and plugged in a whole new storyline. For months, fans swore he had one more chance, one more appeal, one more legal miracle waiting in the shadows. But the new court decision, it didn't just shut the door, it welded it shut, triple locked it, and threw the key into the deepest part of the ocean. This is the moment. The collapse. The final chapter nobody was ready for. Let's dive in. From the moment YNW Melly's case began, everybody knew this wasn't going to be a smooth ride. This wasn't a regular trial. This wasn't oops, I missed a court date. This was Florida's legal system versus a rapper whose own lyrics sound like evidence written in rhyme. And from the very start, Melly's team pushed the narrative that he had one secret weapon. One last chance hiding behind all the chaos. A chance to overturn the damage from the mistrial, the misconduct allegations. And the prosecutors who seemed determined to drag this case across every headline for 5 years straight. But when the latest courtroom update dropped, that last chance didn't just fade. It collapsed like someone cut the power to the entire storyline. The judge didn't hesitate. The prosecution didn't blink. The decision came down with the energy of a slammed door, a final shutdown that echoed across the internet. It wasn't just a denial. It was a message. This saga isn't rewinding. It's accelerating toward the inevitable. Let's rewind, because the only way to understand how big this moment is to remember how we got here in the first place. YNW Melly's name has been tied to one of the most dramatic cases in modern hip-hop history. Two best friends, YNW Juvie and YNW Sakasar, dead in a car. Melly and YNW Bortland claiming it was a drive-by. Investigators saying the shots came from inside the vehicle. A story so wild that detectives couldn't even decide what genre it belonged in. True crime, horror, betrayal, or the world's darkest rap subplot. From the beginning, the prosecution moved like they were filming their own documentary. They had cell tower records. They had ballistic analysis. They had the alleged staged drive-by theory. They even tried to pull Melly's own lyrics into the mix, including Murder on My Mind, which caused half the internet to say, case closed, and the other half to say, have you ever heard rap music before? The chaos was insane. The memes were relentless. And the attorneys on both sides treated every hearing like a heavy weight. Title match. Then came the first trial. A circus so out of control it makes reality TV look fully sober. Jurors couldn't agree. Unexpected motions flew across the courtroom like confetti. The vibe went from we're reaching a verdict to we're trapped in a legal tornado with no exit. When the judge declared a mistrial, Melly's fanbase celebrated like their team just won a championship. They thought this was the break he needed. They truly believed the retrial would be different, shorter, cleaner, maybe even leaning in Melly's favor. Then reality hit. Hard. The retrial never even began. That's when everything flipped. Melly's defense team filed motion after motion, accusing the prosecution of misconduct. There were claims about improper communications, claims about detectives going rogue, claims about evidence being handled like it was a group project nobody took seriously. Suddenly, the case wasn't just about the crime. It was about whether the state had fumbled so badly that the whole thing should be thrown out like spoiled leftovers, and just when it looked like the defense had momentum, the judge pulled the biggest plot twist of all. The claims weren't enough. She was done entertaining it, done rehashing the accusations, done reopening hearings. When that ruling dropped, it was like a thunderclap. The internet froze. Comment sections burst into life. Fans screamed "Nitro way." Haters screamed "finally." But the truth was simple. Melly's last legal hope had just evaporated. This wasn't just a denial. It was the legal equivalent of a mic drop. The judge's message was clear. No more loopholes. No more delays. No more technicality victories. No more waiting for some magical reset button. Florida was moving forward, and Melly's defense was out of lifelines. This was the moment everyone feared. The moment the case snapped into its endgame. Online, the reactions were pure chaos. You had Melly supporters saying the system was corrupt. You had skeptics saying the system was slow but inevitable. You had casual observers who barely followed the case, screaming, "I knew this was coming," even though they didn't know anything. And you had people who only heard about Melly through TikTok edits, suddenly acting like they were constitutional scholars. But the question everyone was asking was the same. What happens now? To understand that, you need to look at everything Melly lost in this ruling. This wasn't just some procedural motion. This was the one remaining door that could have stalled the retrial, forced a new judge, suppressed controversial evidence, or forced the state to backtrack months of work. Without it, Melly is facing the full weight of a prosecution that has spent nearly half a decade building a case they believe is airtight. And the prosecutors. They celebrated quietly, but you know they celebrated. They've been waiting for this moment. They've been waiting to wipe the mistrial off the table and put this case back on track toward the verdict they've been chasing since day one. With this ruling, they have everything they need to push forward without looking over their shoulder every 5 minutes. The irony is wild. Melly's fanbase thought the mistrial was the beginning of a comeback. But in reality, the mistrial only delayed the inevitable. It was a half-hour intermission in a play that was always going to return to the same script. The prosecutor's energy now is different, sharper, more confident, almost aggressive. They've already started planning the next phase. No more mistrial confusion. No more delays. No more back-and-forth arguments about evidence handling. They are in attack mode, and Melly's defense knows the pressure just multiplied. But perhaps the craziest part is the timing. This ruling didn't drop after a long, calm period. It dropped right after weeks of internet speculation about whether Melly could walk free. Fans were convinced the retrial was weakening. They believed the misconduct claims would torpedo the entire case. They believed the judge was losing faith in the state. And when this ruling hit, it silenced all of that instantly. Because the message from the court was loud. This case is not falling apart. It's moving forward whether Melly's supporters like it or not. You could feel the shift across social media. One moment people were posting Melly home soon. The next, the entire mood turned dark. Suddenly, everyone remembered this is a double homicide case with extremely serious implications. Suddenly, everyone remembered Florida does not play around with charges like these. And suddenly, people realized Melly isn't facing one of those 3 to 5 years in probation situations. He's facing the possibility of a verdict that could end everything. This ruling didn't just close a door. It closed the window. It closed the vents. It sealed the entire building shut. And now Melly is running out of air. But the story doesn't stop here. This ruling triggered reactions from celebrities, YouTubers, fan accounts, and even rappers who hadn't spoken on the case in 2 years. The internet's meltdown wasn't just loud, it created a whole new wave of drama that took the situation from serious to sensational. And if you thought the courtroom twist was wild, wait until you see how the culture reacted. The moment news broke that YNW Melly's final chance had been shut down, the internet didn't just react, it detonated. Twitter turned into a digital riot. Instagram became a panic hotline. TikTok went into emergency meme mode. And YouTube ate the whole situation like a buffet, pushing the story into every algorithm like it was the Super Bowl of courtroom disasters. To say people were stunned is an understatement. Fans were pacing in their rooms like they were waiting on DNA results. Others were posting prayer hands so aggressively you'd think their keyboards were sweating. And then, the memes. Lord, the memes. People were editing Melly's courtroom collapse into WWE entrance songs. Someone layered dramatic opera music over a clip of the judge denying the motion. One fan even posted a video captioned Melly's last nerve leaving the courtroom, with a cartoon character levitating out the door. But the shockwave didn't stop at fans. Celebrities chimed in too, each giving responses that ranged from dramatic to outright confusing. One rapper tweeted, "Free Melvin," which only added fuel to the chaos because it referenced Melly's infamous alter ego. Half the internet screamed, "He trolling," while the other half screamed, "This ain't the time." It was pure emotional mayhem, the kind only hip-hop scandals can produce. The kind only hip-hop scandals can produce. And just when fans thought reactions couldn't get weirder, a few influencers posted cryptic messages about the justice system choosing violence. Others jumped on live streams pretending they had inside information, dropping lines like, "I heard from someone in Florida," even though you know they heard that rumor from someone in Ohio. Ha! Who heard it from someone on Reddit? Who heard it from their cousin's barber? But the energy really spiked when legal commentators started stepping in. Lawyers on TikTok put on their suits and ties and hit record like they were auditioning for court TV. They dissected the ruling with diagrams, timelines, and dramatic voiceovers. They explained the judge's refusal to reopen hearings, analyzed the legal failures, and broke down why this wasn't just a minor setback. It was the death of the last surviving miracle Melly could have hoped for. The message from legal experts was brutal. This was it. This was the last lifeline. Everything from here gets harder. Then you had the conspiracy theorists, always ready, always lurking. Some claimed the judge had an agenda. Others said the prosecutors were under political pressure. A few even suggested industry insiders wanted Melly locked up to protect the brand of Florida rap. These theories ranged from imaginative to delusional, but they spread like wildfire because social media loves drama more than it loves facts. Meanwhile, Melly supporters battled Melly's critics in comment sections like it was the hip-hop version of the Civil War. Supporters dragged anyone who dared say the evidence was strong. Critics dragged anyone saying "Free Melly" without reading a single court filing. And in the middle were confused people who only knew Melly from TikTok edits and suddenly realized the case wasn't just a music scandal. It was a double homicide charge with massive stakes. What pushed this even further into chaos was the resurfacing of Melly's infamous behavior in court. Clips of him grinning, laughing, and making faces during the first trial suddenly went viral again, with everyone saying the same thing. This man is not taking this seriously. These clips fueled both sides. Supporters said he was coping with stress. Critics said it showed arrogance. The internet replayed these moments like it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Even more escalated when people started posting the old Murder on My Mind clips again. That song has haunted this case from the beginning, like a ghost that refuses to leave. Despite being recorded long before the alleged crime, the internet refused to let go. The song was trending again, lyrics dissected like FBI documents. And memes comparing the track to a confession in HD audio started circulating relentlessly. Meanwhile, prosecutors moved with renewed intensity. They used the ruling as a green light to tighten their narrative, refine their strategy, and prepare for a streamlined, aggressive retrial. They weren't looking shaken anymore. They looked ready. The state's confidence translated directly into the public sphere, fueling headlines like Melly's options shrinking and prosecution strengthens position post-ruling. And just when the social media blaze hit peak temperature, family reactions began circulating online. Some family members of the victims expressed relief that the defense lost this motion. Others expressed exhaustion after years of delays, trials, mistrials, and countless motions. Their reactions were somber reminders that beyond the memes and drama, this is a case rooted in real pain and real loss, something often overshadowed by the internet's obsession with chaos. On the other side, Melly supporters posted messages emphasizing his innocence, arguing the system had failed him, and urging fans not to give up hope. One supporter even started a trending hashtag proclaiming that God has the final say, sparking thousands of passionate comments and debates. It became a battle between hope and heartbreak, law and loyalty, evidence and emotion. Music critics also jumped in, using the ruling to reopen old debates about hip-hop's relationship with the justice system. They argued this case exposed how rap lyrics are weaponized, how the culture gets stereotyped, and how artists often get punished based on persona instead of proof. Some argued Melly was a victim of his own dark artistic themes. Others argued he was hiding behind them. Either way, the discourse expanded into something much larger than one artist. Not to be outdone, YouTubers unleashed an avalanche of reaction videos. Thumbnails screamed with red arrows, shocked faces, and phrases like the end. And what just happened to Melly? Everybody had a take. Psychologists, criminologists, former inmates, astrology readers, tarot card interpreters, you name it, they analyzed it. The algorithm was eating, and the audience was starving for more. But the biggest shift came when producers, managers, and industry insiders began whispering about what this meant for Melly's career. Some said labels would distance themselves. Some said unreleased tracks would be pushed out quietly. Others said the impact of this ruling meant the industry had accepted a harsh truth. A comeback was no longer something anyone could realistically plan for. This ruling didn't just affect Melly's immediate future, it shook the foundation of his legacy. It changed fan perception. It changed industry perception. It changed the way people talked about him, streamed his music, and discussed the case. Supporters went quieter. Critics grew louder. And the middle ground, the people who weren't sure what to believe, began leaning toward the belief that the tide had turned for good. Part 2 wasn't just an escalation. It was a cultural explosion. A mix of emotions, facts, chaos, conspiracies, celebrity reactions, and social media meltdowns that transformed a courtroom ruling into a global moment. But the real storm comes after this. Because Part 3 isn't about reactions, it's about consequences. And for YNW Melly, those consequences are unlike anything he's faced before. When the courtroom ruling dropped, it didn't just land, it echoed. It echoed through Florida, through the hip-hop community, through every corner of social media where Melly's name once sparked debates, jokes, fan edits, and endless arguments. But now, the tone shifted. The air changed. The vibe turned cold. The ruling didn't just close a door, it slammed an entire future shut. And the weight of that impact is still rippling outward in ways nobody expected. The first shockwave hit Melly's legal camp. His lawyers, once full of optimism and bold declarations about reversals and retrials, suddenly went silent. Not defeated, just calculating. They knew this wasn't a normal loss. This was a structural failure, a foundational collapse. The judge basically told them, this case is moving forward, and nothing you file is going to stop the train. And in the world of criminal defense, that kind of message is a gut punch. No strategy session, no late-night filing, no emergency appeal can erase the reality of a courtroom that has made up its mind. Then came the second wave. The prison reaction. Word traveled fast. Inmates listened to news with a different kind of intensity, and Melly's case has been a topic of conversation behind those walls since day one. People whispered about the ruling, about the implications, about the fact that the one sliver of hope Melly had left evaporated overnight. Even guards reportedly commented on how different the energy felt. It's one thing to face trial. It's another to face it with every legal door sealed shut behind you. The third shockwave hit the music industry. Executives who once saw Melly as a potential comeback story, someone whose streams could surge the moment he walked out, suddenly started backing away. Quietly, of course. They never make a scene, but they shift. They slow down communication. They adjust internal projections. They remove an artist's name from future release slates. That's how the industry speaks when it doesn't want to speak. Producers who were sitting on Melly features began wondering whether those tracks should ever see daylight. Labels questioned whether unfinished projects would spark backlash. Streaming platforms debated whether promoting older Melly songs would lead to social media outrage. And Melly's catalog, once a goldmine of replay value, began feeling like a risky investment. Fans noticed the change. They noticed the silence. They noticed the tone. Suddenly, nobody was talking about Melly's comeback tour. Nobody was discussing when the album drops. Nobody was posting, just wait, he's beating this case. Instead, people began confronting reality. And reality was harsh. The prosecution, emboldened by the ruling, adjusted their narrative like a team tightening game strategy with the finish line in sight. No more caution, no more hesitation. They were ready to present a retrial that felt laser-focused, refined, and surgically planned. They prepared witnesses with aggressive precision. They reviewed digital evidence for inconsistencies. Around Melly's courtroom behavior, his interviews, his music, his social media history. This wasn't a prosecution preparing for a trial. This was a prosecution preparing for the trial. Meanwhile, critics of Melly grew louder. They resurfaced footage from the first mistrial. They reposted diagrams of forensic evidence. They shared clips of prosecutors describing ballistics, trajectories, angles, timelines. Influencers dove into the case with a new level of intensity, treating the retrial like a cultural event. Even legal podcasts, usually calm and analytical, began describing the situation as a near-impossible uphill battle. But it wasn't just the legal world feeling the shift, it was Melly's inner circle. Friends who once confidently proclaimed he's coming home started going quiet. The people who filled social media with inspirational messages and optimistic updates began posting vague emotional quotes instead. Even family members, who remained Melly's strongest supporters, acknowledged privately that this ruling represented something dangerous, something final. And in the middle of all this chaos, Melly himself became the center of speculation. Rumors swirled about how he reacted to the ruling. Some claimed he remained calm. Others said he looked shaken for the first time. A few jail insiders claimed he locked in mentally, preparing for the fight of his life. No one knows the truth. But the swirl of conflicting reports only fueled the story's intensity. Then came the media tidal wave. News networks framed the ruling as the turning point of the entire case. documentarians began assembling new episodes centered around the ruling. Broadcasters emphasized the phrase "last chance" with the kind of dramatic pacing usually reserved for war coverage. Headlines grew more dramatic by the hour. Melly's hopes crushed, retrial locked in. Defense left with nitrogen monoxide options. Judge signals nitrogen monoxide, more delays. But the greatest fallout wasn't on screens. It was in culture. Because for the first time, the public stopped arguing about Melly's guilt or innocence. They started discussing the inevitability of what comes next. Fans asked heartbreaking questions. What happens if he loses? Will his music be removed? Does this mean life in prison? And the darkest one, is this the end? Meanwhile, Melly's critics claimed this was validation of everything they believed since day one. They declared victory prematurely, ignoring the fact that the legal system still requires a trial, evidence, and a verdict. But perception shapes legacy, and in the court of public opinion, perception was shifting fast. Even other rappers took notice. Some remained silent. Some posted cryptic messages about loyalty and betrayal. A few hinted that Melly's case had become a cautionary tale, a reminder of how fast everything can fall apart. In a genre built on survival stories and redemption arcs, Melly's situation wasn't inspiring hope anymore. It was inspiring reflection as communities discussed the case. One truth became clear. This ruling didn't just affect Melly's legal standing. It affected how he will be remembered. Because once a courtroom locks in and the appeals dry up, the world begins preparing for the final chapter. And for Melly, the narrative was shifting into something colder, something heavier, something irreversible. The industry was preparing for a future without his presence. Fans were grieving the loss of what they thought was possible. Critics were rewriting the discourse around his legacy, and the legal system was tightening its grip. Everything was changing fast. This wasn't just a setback. This was a transition point. The kind of moment where a story stops being ongoing drama and becomes historical tragedy. The ruling marked the moment the rap world realized something brutal. YNW Melly might not be fighting to win anymore. He might be fighting to survive. And as the retrial approaches with higher stakes, a sharper prosecution, and a defense team running out of maneuvers, one truth looms over everything. This may truly be the end, not because fans want it, not because the industry predicted it, but because the legal system has finally closed its hand around the final outcome. Melly's last chance didn't just disappear. It was erased. And the story that unfolds next will decide how he is remembered forever. And there you have it. People, the moment the entire hip-hop world felt the floor tilt beneath its feet. YNW Melly's last lifeline didn't just slip away. It snapped like a cheap charger cord right when you need your phone the most. If this case felt like a roller coaster before, now it feels like the ride just derailed and the operator went on lunch break. Because what's coming next isn't hype, isn't speculation, isn't fan theory. It's the cold, unfiltered reality of a retrial that could shape Melly's legacy forever. And trust me, you do not want to be the person who finds out the verdict secondhand. This whole saga is unfolding like a Netflix docuseries with no skip button. We're strapped in, whether we like it or not. So do yourself a favor. Smash that like button like it owes you child support. Hit subscribe like you're trying to beat a federal conviction record. And drop a comment letting me know what you think. Is Melly fighting a broken system, or is the system finally tightening the screws? I read every comment, even the chaotic ones typed with full rage and zero punctuation. Because here on The Rap Truth, we don't sugarcoat, we don't tiptoe, and we definitely don't pretend the industry is cleaner than it is. We follow the scandals, the rumors, the courtroom chaos, and the career-ending bombshells the moment they detonate. This is where stories explode, reputations shake, and legends get rewritten in real time. And if you think this was wild, just wait. Tomorrow's scandal is already brewing. and it's messier than a group chat at 3 a.m. This is the rap truth, where the truth is loud. The drama is louder, and the streets are always watching. Stay locked in. Stay locked in.